I never believed in love at first sight, until the day she walked into my barbershop and left with more than just a new look. It was a Monday. The kind of day that starts slow. Darren stood behind his single chair setup, the little bell above the door still dusty from when his uncle last cleaned it before he passed away and left Darren the shop. He never asked for this life, but it's the only thing that made sense after everything fell apart. Outside, kids played football with a half-flat ball. Inside, Darren was halfway through a low fade when his friend Kev leaned on the wall eating boiled maize. "You ever think of, I don't know, living?" Kev said. "I mean, bro, you need a girl, not another fade." Darren smirked, not looking up. "Girls don't pay rent." Kev chuckled. "Neither does depression." The customer in the chair laughed. Darren didn't. He never did. Then the bell rang. A sound so ordinary, but in that moment, it sliced through the room like the first drop of rain after a drought. She stepped in like a song that didn't belong on the playlist but made everyone stop and listen. Alma. Big eyes. Orange hoodie. Sketchbook under her arm. The kind of girl who looked like she walked into the wrong movie but was ready to change the whole plot. "Hey," she said, walking past Kev like he wasn't even there. "You cut women's hair too?" Darren blinked. "Depends." She tilted her head, pushing her hair back revealing the canvas. "I want an undercut. Right side. And make it clean." He stared. "You sure?" She smiled. Not a polite smile. A smile that said I'm chaos, and I dare you to keep up. "I want to feel something new," she said, lowering herself into the chair. "Do your magic." The clippers started again but slower this time. As if the machine knew it wasn't just hair being cut. It was history being made. Alma didn't talk much, but her eyes wandered. She looked at the mirrors, the cracks on the wall, the faded poster of Tupac, the price list scribbled in blue pen. Then she watched Darren in the mirror. "You're quiet," she said. "I'm focused." She smirked. Focused is loneless older brother. That made him glance at her. Just once. But it was enough. For the next 20 minutes, silence became their language. She tilted her head. He shaped her line. She blinked slow. He brushed the hair from her neck with a gentleness that surprised even him. When he handed her the mirror, she held it up, turned slightly, and gasped softly. "I love it," she whispered. "Like, really love it." Darren raised an eyebrow. "Good." She stood, walked to the door, then turned back. "You ever get bored of cutting hair?" He paused. "Every day." "Then maybe," she said, pulling a pen from her bag and scribbling something on a gum wrapper, "you need someone who sees more in you than your clippers." She left the wrapper on the counter, walked out. Darren stood still. Kev picked it up. "She just flirted with you, you fool." On the wrapper was a phone number. And one word. Designs. That night, Darren didn't clean the shop. He sat in the chair she'd been in and looked at his hands. He had held thousands of heads, but never felt this. The next day, she didn't come back. Not the next, either. By Friday, Darren hated how often he checked his phone. Then Sunday came and so did she. Same hoodie. Different energy. "Your fade didn't fade," she said, teasing. "You came back. You didn't call." "I don't call strangers." She shrugged. "Then I guess you're not curious." He hesitated. "I am." She looked around. "Then come out." "Where?" "Anywhere but here." Darren left the shop keys with Kev. The street felt bigger with her beside him. They ended up at her apartment, small, paint-stained, filled with plants and broken mugs. She showed him her designs, jackets with embroidered hair clipper blades, shoes with barber pole patterns, bags made from recycled leather stitched like fade lines. "I design emotion," she said. "But your shop, that's raw. Honest. I want to create with you." Darren didn't answer. She leaned closer. "You've got hands that tell stories. You just don't know what they're saying." They didn't kiss that night, but they almost did. The next week, Alma brought her sewing machine to the shop. They started something. A side hustle. A brand. fade and design. She cut patterns on the same table he cleaned razors on. He shaved heads while she fitted custom caps. They laughed, fought, stayed late, made playlists. Until one day, she didn't come. No warning. No message. Hours passed. Days. Kev found Darren outside at midnight, smoking a cigarette he didn't even light. Bro, you in love? I don't know. You hurting? Yeah. Then, a week later, Alma appeared. Tired. Eyes swollen. I had to leave. My dad collapsed back home. I didn't know how to say it. I didn't want you to see me broken. Darren looked at her, said nothing, then handed her clippers, then cut my hair. She laughed through tears. What? Cut my hair. Show me what your hands say. And she did. Badly. But she laughed the whole time. And so did he. From that day, it was no longer about hair or design. It was about each other. They grew together. Lost customers. Made new ones. Sold their first jacket. Got rejected from their first expo. Slept in the shop. Danced when no one was watching. Then came the competition. Kigali Top Barber Showdown. Alma pushed Darren to enter. You don't need to win, she said. Just show them who you are. He got on stage, hands trembling, until she shouted from the crowd, do your magic. He smiled. Clippers on. Hands steady. He didn't win first place, but he won something bigger. Her. Months later, Fade and Design opened its second branch. On the wall, framed in gold, was the gum wrapper. The one she left behind on the first day. Under it, a plaque. She walked in for a cut. And carved out forever. And Darren. He still doesn't believe in love at first sight. But he believes in Alma. And that's enough. He started the first bars of the clippers along her temple, careful and precise, like every hair held a secret. Alma tilted her head slightly, exposing more of her neck, and the air between them grew still not awkward, but charged, like they were both pretending this was just a normal haircut. So, Darren, right? She asked, watching him in the mirror. Yeah. You always this quiet? He gave a soft chuckle. Only when someone lets me hold clippers near their skull. She smiled. Fair enough. A few beats of silence, then she spoke again. I just moved here. Studying design. Thought a new city deserved a new look. What kind of design? Fashion. But not like commercial stuff. I want to design feeling, stories people can wear. He nodded slowly. That's deep. What about you? Always been a barber? He didn't look at her. Sort of. Took over the shop after my uncle passed. She studied his eyes in the mirror. And before that? He hesitated. School wasn't for me. You dropped out. Didn't have much choice. That stopped her. Oh. Darren shifted his posture, trying to change the subject. Turn your head slightly. She obeyed, but the tension lingered. Still, her voice softened. Funny how we don't choose where we come from, but somehow it always follows us. He paused for a second, then kept cutting. She let the silence stretch this time. I used to think pain made people ugly, she whispered. Now I think it just changes their colors. Darren didn't respond, but he smiled a tiny, barely there curve of his lips and kept working. When she left, she turned at the door. Thank you. Not just for the cut. He just nodded. That night, the shop was closed early. The sign flipped. The lights dimmed. But Darren didn't go home. He sat in the barber chair, the same one his uncle used to sit in when telling stories about the glory days. Darren pulled out an old, worn photo from under the drawer, a woman standing at a bus station, suitcase in hand, barely waving. His mother. He was 10 when she left. No warning. No goodbye. Just a note on the fridge and a train ticket to nowhere. His uncle raised him. Taught him how to cut hair. Said the clippers could pay the rent. Said focus makes pain quiet. But tonight, that pain wasn't quiet. Darren pulled out a notebook filled with sketches, all of them hairstyles. Fades, designs, creative cuts no client had ever asked for. They were full of movement, expression, emotion. Each one was a language he never got to speak. He stared at one sketch, a half fade shaped like a falling feather, then picked up his pencil and started drawing again. Faster this time. As if Alma's words had cracked something open. You dropped out. Didn't have much choice. He said it like it didn't matter. But it did. It always did. He stopped drawing, let out a breath, and stared at the page. Maybe, just maybe, someone finally saw more in him than just a barber. And that scared him more than he was ready to admit. The next time the bell above the door rang, Darren didn't even look up. He was midway through a taper fade, lost in the rhythm of the blades, when a voice, warm, playful, cut through the hum of his machine. I got addicted to the vibe here. It was Alma. He paused, looked up through the mirror. She stood there with that same orange hoodie, now paint-stained at the sleeves, her sketchbook under her arm again like it was part of her. You back for another cut? He asked. Nope. Just the energy. And maybe a conversation. He turned to her, smirking slightly. I don't do much talking, remember? She sat herself casually in the empty chair beside his main one, crossing her legs. Exactly. That's why I came back. You don't talk much, but your hands speak loud. Kev, sweeping in the corner, shot Darren a look and mouthed brew. Darren ignored him. He finished the haircut he was working on, then joined her as she flipped through her sketchbook. Designs of streetwear, jackets with zipper fangs, skirts with fade line embroidery. He noticed next to one of the drawings a tiny doodle of a barber chair, with a cartoon guy in it that looked oddly like him. He raised an eyebrow. That's supposed to be me. She didn't look up. Maybe. Silence again. But this time, it was full, not empty. Like they were sharing a space only they could feel. As the customer left, Kev leaned over and whispered, Bro, if you don't ask her out, I will. Darren rolled his eyes. Later that evening, with the shop quiet and golden light stretching through the windows, Darren found himself typing, then deleting, then typing again. Darren, you free tomorrow? He hit send. Alma replied in less than a minute. Alma, for the one who gave me the boldest haircut of my life. Definitely. Kev danced around the shop like it was a club. Date night. My boy is evolving. Darren acted calm, but his heartbeat was chaos. The next evening, he waited outside the cafe they'd agreed on. Wore his cleanest shirt, ironed by Kev, who insisted, you need to look like you own a whole franchise, not just one chair. He checked his phone. 6:03 p.m. He waited. 6:20. He stared at every person that passed. 6:40. A light drizzle began. People rushed under awnings. He stayed rooted. 7:10. No message. The rain turned heavier. He stood there soaked, still holding his phone like it owed him an answer. Maybe she forgot. Maybe she changed her mind. Or maybe this was just life reminding him not to expect anything good to last. He didn't go home that night. He went back to the shop, unlocked the door, sat in the chair she used the first time, and stared at the reflection of a guy who let his guard down and got punished for it. He checked his phone again. Still nothing. No text. No explanation. Only the sound of rain tapping against the window, and Kev's voice echoing in his memory from earlier. Bro, if you don't ask her out, I will. Funny thing was, now no one could. And just like that, the first half hour of their story didn't end with a kiss or a promise. It ended with a soaked shirt, a silent phone, and the look of someone learning the cost of hope. It was 4 days before Darren saw her again. He was unlocking the shop that morning, hoodie up, head down, when a shadow fell across the doorway. Hey, came the voice, quiet, nervous. He looked up. Alma. Hair tied back. Eyes tired. No sketchbook in sight. Darren didn't say a word. Just turned the key, pushed the door open, and walked inside. She followed him, standing just near the entrance like she wasn't sure she was welcome anymore. I know what you're thinking, she started. But it's not what it looks like. He picked up the broom and started sweeping hair that wasn't even there. My phone was stolen that same day, she said. At the bus stop. I didn't even remember your number, it was just saved under Buzz Guy. He didn't stop sweeping. It's whatever. Darren. He looked up, finally. Eyes hard. Distant. You think you're the first person to disappear on me? He said, almost too calm. You got scared. It's fine. I'm used to it. She flinched a little. I wasn't scared. I waited too, you know. You think I didn't want to be there? He didn't reply. I even came back the next night, she said, her voice cracking a little. You had already closed. He turned away, pretended to fix the cape on the barber chair. Alma sighed, stepping back toward the door. I thought you were different. Darren's voice dropped. You thought wrong. She stood there for a moment still, hurt, then left. The bell above the door jingled behind her, and somehow, it sounded heavier than usual. Like a goodbye. The next day, Darren was off his game. His first client asked for a simple mid-fade. He zoned out halfway through, and when the guy looked in the mirror, his mouth dropped open. What's this, man? My head looks like a Wi-Fi signal. Kev jumped up. Yo, bro, you good? Darren just blinked. Sorry. I'll fix it. The client wasn't happy but left without a fight. Kev stared at him. You've never messed up a fade in your life. Darren sat down in the empty chair, head in hands. I don't even know why I care. Kev tilted his head. About what? I barely know her. She barely knows me. And yet. He didn't finish. He didn't have to. Later that evening, when the shop had emptied and the sun was bleeding orange across the city, Darren went to close the window. That's when he saw it taped to the glass from the outside. A small folded paper. He opened it slowly, unfolding it like it might break. Inside was a quick hand-drawn sketch, his face, half-shaded, lines like they were sculpted with care. Next to it, clippers drawn like a crown. At the bottom, in neat, slanted letters. You're more than your clippers. No name. No number. Just that sentence. He stood there for a long time, paper in hand, staring at the city through the glass. Somehow, for the first time in days, the buzz inside him felt louder than the clippers ever did. It was just after sunset when Darren wandered into the local park, hoodie up, headphones in, but no music playing. Just static silence. The same park his uncle used to bring him to as a kid, before things got complicated, before life asked him to grow up too fast. He sat alone on the concrete steps near the old fountain, watching kids chase each other, lovers leaning into laughter, the rest of the world moving like it never noticed he was standing still. Then a voice behind him. I thought maybe I'd find you here. He turned slowly. Alma stood there, her orange hoodie replaced by a worn denim jacket covered in stitch-designed scissors, lightning bolts, and a small barber pole in the corner. She looked nervous but determined. Darren looked away. I figured you were done trying. I was, she said softly. But then I remembered I never liked quitting on things that feel real. He said nothing. She sat beside him, their shoulders almost touching but not quite. Silence stretched, but this time, it begged to be broken. I cut hair to silence the noise, Darren said finally, eyes fixed on the ground. Alma looked at him gently. I designed to tell the truth I can't speak. They both sat there, stripped of performances, excuses, or defense. I don't trust people easily, he admitted. Every time I have, I lost something. My mom. My old crew. Even the shop almost disappeared after my uncle passed. She swallowed. I don't let people in easily either. I move a lot. My dad's never in one place. I got used to disappearing before anyone could leave me first. Darren turned toward her. Then why do I feel like you see through me anyway? Alma didn't blink. Because I do. And just like that, the distance vanished. Their lips met soft and slow, not like a movie kiss, not with fireworks or orchestral swells. Just warmth. Honesty. Two people exhaling after holding in breath for far too long. The next day, the shop buzzed with something electric. Alma sat at the front, laptop open, sketching ideas while Darren sharpened his tools. A poster lay between them. Kiggly Barber Battle, one blade, one crown. Kev peeked over Alma's shoulder. You're designing his brand. She nodded. He's not just a barber. He's an artist. Darren scoffed. Easy now. Kev grinned. Don't act humble. She's turning you into a whole brand, bro. They started working non-stop. Their bond grew stronger not through perfection, but through persistence. Through sweat and ink and hair and honesty. The shop transformed. No longer just a place to get a cut, but a canvas. People noticed. The contest was a week away, but already, Darren felt like he was winning something bigger than a trophy. He was rising not just with Alma beside him, but finally with belief inside him. And it showed in everything he touched. Even his hands started trembling less. Because for the first time in his life, he wasn't cutting just to silence the noise. He was cutting to be heard. The morning of the Kiggly Barber battle, the air buzzed with more than clippers. Darren stood near the back of the room, quiet, hoodie up, breathing through his nerves. Alma adjusted his collar, then pinned a small logo badge on his chest fade and design. It was hand-stitched. Her work. His vision. Their brand. You ready? She asked. No, he said. Then smiled. But I'm showing up anyway. She squeezed his hand. Then you've already won more than most. Kev showed up just in time with 2 iced teas and a pep talk that felt more like a stand-up routine. Bro, just do what you do. Fade him like your rent depends on it. And don't forget to smile. The judges eat that up. They called Darren's name over the loudspeaker. He walked up to the stage. A single barber chair sat under the lights. A live model waited, hair untouched, face anxious. The clock started. 30 minutes. Darren inhaled, exhaled, and fired up the clippers. The crowd leaned in. He started slow, mapping out the shape with quiet precision. His hands moved like music, guided by instinct more than thought. He wasn't just cutting, he was sculpting, blending, storytelling. Every fade line told a piece of him. The years he spent hiding in silence. The grief he buried in late-night cuts. The hope Alma carved into his days. As he neared the final touches, the crowd grew louder. Even the judges leaned forward. Alma stood in the crowd, clutching a sketchbook to her chest. She didn't cheer. She didn't blink. She just watched, eyes wide proud. With 5 seconds left, Darren laid down the clippers and turned the chair toward the judges. The model looked in the mirror and gasped softly, then smiled. The room exploded. Claps. Cheers. Cameras. Darren didn't win first place. But he didn't need to. What happened next changed everything. A local fashion rep came up to him. You the one behind Fade and Design? He nodded cautiously. You and your girl ever thought about merging fashion and grooming? I got space in my next pop-up. I think what you're doing is fresh. Real. Darren blinked. Alma stepped forward, grinning. Yes, we have. That night, back at the shop, they didn't celebrate with champagne or fancy dinners. They sat on the floor with takeout fries, listening to old school soul on the radio. You know, Darren said, mouthful of fries. I think I finally get what you mean about designing emotion. Alma looked at him. And I've been cutting it this whole time. I just didn't know. She laughed, leaned over, kissed his cheek. He looked at her, soft and steady. You ever think about forever? She blinked. That's a heavy question for someone who just ate all the fries. I'm serious, he said, brushing a curl behind her ear. You walked into my shop like it was nothing. But you changed everything. I didn't change anything, she whispered. You just finally saw what was already in you. He pulled her close, forehead against hers. And for the first time, Darren felt what he never did before. Loved. Seen. Enough. The next morning, the shop was still small. The posters still faded. But the energy was different. Because now, when people came in, they didn't just leave with a haircut. They left with a piece of something real. Something designed. Something true. And above the mirror, taped forever, was Alma's old handwritten note. "You're more than your clippers." As Darren stepped onto the main stage of the Kigali barber battle, the magnitude of the moment caught up with him. The audience now felt like a wall closing in. He froze. The clippers in his hand buzzed steadily, but his hands didn't move. Seconds passed. His model shifted in the chair. For a brief moment, self-doubt threatened to unravel everything he had worked for. But then, through the crowd, Darren's eyes locked onto Alma's. She had slipped in quietly, unnoticed by most, but her presence grounded him. She gave a single, affirming nod, not a push, not pressure, just a silent acknowledgement. "You belong here." It was enough. He inhaled, clicked into focus, and began. What followed was a technical masterclass in modern barbering. A fade with seamless gradation, accented by custom-designed line work inspired by Alma's textile sketches. Every motion from blade angle to wrist rotation demonstrated precision, control, and creative expression. By the time he finished, the models looked blended urban edge with art school finesse. Though Darren secured second place, the crowd's response suggested a broader victory. Social media mentions surged. Local influencers tagged the style as the fade that told a story. The judges acknowledged not just his skill, but his innovation, a blend of grooming and design rarely seen at the competition level. In the days that followed, Darren expanded the shop. The new section, titled Fade and Design, was not merely a physical upgrade, but a symbolic evolution. Alma's artwork, original sketches, printed textile pieces, and framed collaborative concepts adorned the walls. Each design bore elements of their shared narrative: growth, pain, resilience, and creativity. The closing voiceover, narrating over visuals of them working side by side in the shop, articulated the transformation. "She came in for a cut, and stayed to shape the person I didn't know I could be." This conclusion encapsulated not only a romantic arc but also a professional transformation, illustrating how passion, when fused with partnership, can redefine identity and legacy within a local creative industry.